Hey everybody, Steve here again. Back down here in my basement workshop, and I've got another flea market find segment to do. And again, this isn't really a flea market segment so much as bought some stuff out of an estate, and I also have a few items I picked up here and there that over the past couple of weeks they kind of fell through the cracks, and I was just kind of organizing things here and came across them, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned them because I got some kind of neat items here. Got a indicator I bought off of eBay, which is for myself, and a little bit of eye candy. I'll show you guys that. And then I've got a very unusual, appears to be very rare brown and sharp indicator that I think you're going to get a kick out of. So let's start with this eBay buy. I actually got this a few weeks ago and haven't even gotten around to opening it yet, which is my mistake, because you should always check things when they come in from eBay. You should check right away, make sure there isn't a problem. But anyways, this is an indicator that came up on eBay. I don't know how I happened upon this by accident. And those of you who know me and watch the channel regularly know that I have quite a lot of indicators. I'm selling off quite a few, and I still have plenty in reserve. And I have some that I set aside that I'm keeping because they're just really pretty or neat or whatever. So I guess you might say I've kind of become a little bit of a collector as far as machinist indicators go. So this is a brown and sharp that came up, and you know, hey, I got plenty of brown and sharps, and it's a drop indicator, which I've got plenty of drop indicators. But I was looking at the picture, and what caught my eye was what this thing looked like. This is nicely packed, double bubble wrapped envelope here. Original brown and sharp box. The box isn't in the greatest condition, but I knew that from the photo that the box had some issues on the cover. Bear with me a moment as I discover where the tape begins and ends. Aha, there we go. Well, certainly no complaints to the seller regarding the packing job. It's well done. I'm going to save this bubble wrap. You know, when you use a lot of bubble wrap, it starts to get expensive. It adds up. That box is a little pregnant. I wonder if he put something in there to cushion the face of the indicator on the inside here too. Oh, he taped. Oh, see now, that's a mistake. Taped it both ways with packing tape. So the only way to remove that tape now, well, really you don't want to, because it'll definitely do what happened here all over it. So. All right, things were going good until that happened, so I'm just going to cut this tape. So my initial thought was, based on the photographs that I saw and the fact that it was in its original box, that this may very well quite be a new old stock, never used indicator. But what caught my eye about this sucker is that it's got a gold tone bezel. And also, I think it's worthy to note that this is a 0.0001 inch indicator. So this is a tenths indicator. Each division is 10/1000ths of an inch. And it's got this mechanism on the top here. Okay, so that would indicate to me that this was designed to be on a stand, a test stand. Now, I do see evidence here that it's been clamped. So I would have to say that this has been used, but, oh, we got engraving here. So that's the only other issue I see. Otherwise, it does look new. It's very clean. Seems to be working perfectly. Very nice. Very nice indeed. I hope you guys can appreciate what a nicely executed piece of precision equipment these indicators are. And then just to have one that they went and made as pretty as a pocket watch. I don't know. Maybe I'm going on too much about it. Waxing nostalgic. I don't think this foam that's in here is probably original to this box. I think this is something somebody cut to make sure it doesn't get whacked around. That's probably why this sits proud. But that's okay. So that's going in Stevie's private collection. Why don't we, as long as we're talking about interesting indicators, let's do this very interesting Brown and Sharpe indicator. I spotted this. This came up on the Used Tool Store's weekly video, and I immediately decided, hey, I'm going to make sure I get there early enough to score this thing. And as luck would have it, I was the winner chicken dinner on this one. So let me show you what's in here. Obviously it's Brown and Sharpe. Voila, we have a unusual device here. Appears to have a bar indicating that it would be something you would mount in a tool post, maybe on a lathe. It is some sort of indicator because it has a little dial, graduations there, and there is a needle there, and I can actually get the needle to move by touching this ball on the end. No part number, clearly marked Brown and Sharpe, manufacturing company, Providence, Rhode Island, USA. There's a patent date on here, and the patent date is July 24th, 1906. As if you couldn't tell this was early just by the design and the way it looks. Okay, so I got this for 25 bucks. No, I'm sorry, that's actually, it ended up being 20. It's a 20 dash, but it was hastily written on there by the tool dealer. So anyways, it was 20 bucks. So I scored this puppy for 20 bucks, and he didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was until I looked at it and realized, well, it's got to be an indicator, but I mean, an indicator of what type and what sort and what's the deal, right? So it took me a lot of searching on the internet to find one, and I did end up finally finding one. There was a discussion in one of the Practical Machinist forums about a Brown and Sharpe number 738 indicator. Then I found this listing here on a place called toolexchange.com.au, which I think might be Australia. But anyways, he's got one available, and he's asking $105 for it. I like how it says in stock, as if like maybe there's more of them, but I think he's got the only one. The only other places I've been able to find pictures of this come up are on WorthPoint, which for those of you who aren't familiar, WorthPoint is a company that, it's an online site you can go to. You can sign up, it's fee-based, and it's really good for people that are like auctioneers and antique dealers and things like that. And basically what it does is WorthPoint will go out and it'll try and find as many sales for a particular item as it can, and then it will determine based on that sale data what something is worth. The problem is when you have something like this that's so seldom comes up for sale, then the data is going to be skewed to whatever somebody paid for that one or two of them that have sold over the past several years. So it's really kind of hard to put a value on something like this. So I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with this. It's not the type of indicator that I get all googly-eyed over like that last one. So I'm thinking I want to sell it, but I'm kind of worried about where I should be price-wise. I guess I could just price it for profit based on what I paid, but then I think it's probably going to change hands 3 more times before it finally finds a retail customer. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So the other thing is, I'm not positive whether or not this is even working correctly, because in the discussion that I was reading about on the Practical Machinist forum, people were talking about this indicator, and they were calling this a centering indicator. Note the large ball on the end that's kind of loose and can move in several different directions. And the only way I can get this needle to deflect appears to be to push straight in on this. In other words, pushing up doesn't cause any deflection in the needle, or down, or side to side. But if I push in, okay, it deflects the needle. Now, the way that I understand this as how it's supposed to work is that it's a centering indicator, and that you would put this in your tool post, and then this would ride on whatever was moving in your chuck that you wanted to adjust and center. And then what happens is this needle will move as long as this ball is being caused to basically go around and around. In other words, do this. And that as you dial it in, you end up centering it, that needle should stop moving. The problem I'm seeing is, even if I push on this so that I get an indication and I start wiggling this, nothing happens. So the question would be, is there something wrong with this thing? So I think I actually saw somebody make mention of that it's fairly easy to open this up and check the mechanism. What I'm looking at right now is like 1 screw in the whole thing. So what the heck? Why don't we take a look inside there? Interesting. Removal of this one little tiny screw doesn't really show much. I'm wondering if this screw is just there for you to be able to take out to put oil in this unit. I don't want to scratch this thing all up. Let's see if I gently pry. Yeah, all right. Gently pry up on that. That does open. There we go. All right, so I see nothing inside here that would cause this needle to deflect for any other motion of this ball other than directly in this direction, because it's basically just a plunger or a pin with a convex end on it that's going to push on this arm right here, and that's what's doing the deal. So if this motion like this is supposed to be transferred into motion like this, that would be happening inside this nose of the unit here, and not inside here. So with that being said, I'm going to put this back together. Well, I noticed that this little collar right here was sticking out a little bit, and I could see that there's a tiny hole right here that's threaded with nothing in it. So I think that's might have been a screw, might have been in there to retain this. So I tried pushing this collar in, and it moves in. So I can actually push that in so that all that play is taken out of there, and it still doesn't work the way it seems like it should work. So I pulled on this, and lo and behold, the whole thing come right out. And what I see when I look down inside there is I see a concave area, almost like a dish-shaped piece down inside there. And what I see on the back side of this is the same thing. See what I'm looking at? I'm wondering now whether or not there is supposed to be a ball inside here. It just seems to me like there should be something between this piece and that piece in there, and I think it's missing. I think that's why this doesn't seem to work the way I thought it should, which is unfortunate because I'll probably never know. Well, guys, I did find the correct patent number. It's US patent number 826971A. It is for what is being called a truing up indicator, and it's actually, the patent was applied for by a B.F. Stowell, Mr. B.F. Stowell, of Springfield, Massachusetts. So he must have assigned this patent to Brown and Sharpe at some point, or maybe he was an employee of Brown and Sharpe, although Springfield's a ways away from where Brown and Sharpe would have been located back then in Rhode Island. So, you know, maybe he just sold it to them. Byron F. Stowell, citizen of the United States of America and a resident of Springfield in the county of Hampden and Tate of Massachusetts. And he goes on and describes it, but the best part is there is a picture, drawing, and if I zoom in on the drawing, I can actually see the way it's constructed, and lo and behold, there doesn't appear to be anything in between those two discs. It almost appears as if by design this thing is supposed to just float around in there. How do you like them apples? Alright, so I think to get this to work correctly, this collar has to be locked in there so that it can't move out, and it appears that the way this is designed is there's a split in that collar right there that actually has a taper to it, and I think when that screw that's missing from this hole is inserted in there and tightened, it wedges in that tapered slot and causes that ring to open up like this in this bore and clamp itself in there. Probably just did that off camera, but basically that ring's gonna spread apart inside the bore and clamp itself inside there. Not the greatest design, in my opinion. So I don't know if I've got a screw that tiny, but anyways, I just thought you guys might find that interesting little unusual indicator from quite a few years ago. And you think about this piece I'm holding in my hand is over 100 years old. How cool is that? Same day I scored that at the tool store, I scored these two items. This is a item that I found on the junk table in the middle. The junk table that day was items were $6 a piece. So I saw this box, opened it up, and what's inside here is an early Simpson meter. This is a model 390 volt amp watt meter. So this does not have any ability to measure resistance. It's only for volts and watts. And it has these really sketchy kind of connections on here that just make you cringe. But the idea is that you would hook up these. What's sketchy about these is that when these are clamped underneath there, it would be easy to touch these terminals on the end there. As a matter of fact, there is, I don't know if you could see that, but there's a bad arc mark on the end of that one right there, which tells me that probably these were undone. This, when this is plugged in, there's 120 volts on a couple of these, and they must have touched each other, and that's probably how that got burnt. But the idea is you would hook these up ahead of time to the meter, plug this in, and this would tell us what the voltage is. Now I see you can press for amps and press for watts, and then it says volts normal. So I'm going to assume that maybe it just shows the voltage as soon as it's hooked up, and then you press amps and watts. So let's see if this old puppy actually still works. Looks like they've made this pretty simplistic the way this wires up. What I'm looking at here is we got two black connectors and then a green and a red. Well, these two posts are black. This one's marked amps and this one's marked volts. So I think these are the almost like the return terminals for those two measurements, and then this red one here must be to go to one of these two red posts, and this one's 150 volt and this one's 300 volt. So this can measure two ranges. We're going to plug this into a 120 volt outlet, so we'll put this on the 150 volt, and then amperage, two ranges, 3 amps, 15 amps. We're going to plug in a pretty low amperage item to this thing, so we're going to just, so this is going to want to go this way. Here we go. All right, so that's that. I'm going to plug in the plug. Look at that. So I can prop this up a little bit. You guys can get a better look at the readout here. Oh, how much glare there is on that from the light. Alright. So there we go. Well, that's actually my overhead shop light that's causing that glare. There we go. Alright. So it's looks like it's 123 volts. Pretty good, not too shabby. Now if I hit the amp button, nothing should happen. Well, that's interesting. Wonder why that's showing any amperage draw. Oh, the meter itself must be. Well, you see, you would think that's a design flaw though, right? Shouldn't show that. I wonder if this set was set to 0. Let me just kill this power and make sure that that goes back all the way to the 0. Oh, there's my problem right there. Notice the needle is floating above the 0 mark. So that is what this 0, this screw right here is for zeroing that. There we go. Alright, let's try that again. Yeah, there we go. That's like almost 120 dead on. So 120 volt and 0 amps. Now, I'm going to plug the shop light into the back of that plug. And no, I'm not. Haha, because now we see the flaw in the system here. Now, see, the problem is that this old meter predates when they started actually having polarized plugs. Those two slots are the same exact size as are these two pins. And the problem is, I just tried to plug in my little bench workshop light, and this is a polarized plug. Notice that this side has a wider terminal. So you can only plug this in to the outlet one way, and that's how all modern outlets are now. So if I wanted to actually plug something into this, I'd have to find something old. I've got my crusty old realistic radio that I've been using here in the shop. Alright, I got it turned on and tuned off station so that I don't have the copyright police after me here on YouTube. And again, we're showing just under, let's see, 105, 110. Well, that's interesting. Well, voltage appears to have dropped quite a bit. Could be the power grid. Well, this radio should be drawing more amperage than this. Well, unfortunately, that would indicate to me that there is a problem with this thing. I did double check in the manual. I do have this wired correctly. It's pretty self-intuitive. If I really wanted to, I could take this apart and check and see if this fuse is inside. But I kind of just got this as a novelty, if nothing more. I mean, I almost left it even at $6. I think I checked on eBay, and I think these sell in decent condition with the case like this for 15 or 20 bucks as a collectible. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep it or not. Also got the owner's manual. The original one's kind of tattered, falling apart, but it's all there, which is kind of neat. So let's move this off to the side. We'll get one more item before we end part 1 today, and that's this item here. So I got that for $6, and I actually got, what I did was I got a package deal. I got this and the meter there for 30, so it's pretty much like I got the meter for the $6, and I got this for 24. And he had wanted 30 for this, but he had this a couple of weeks now, a few weeks actually. So he acquiesced to my request and took the 24 for it. But what this is this is a Criterion number 2 boring bar. So Criterion's a really good name in boring bars, and number 2 is a nice size. The only issue I see with it, it's a little dinged up, is somebody ground flats right here. So this is you've got this flat already on here, and then somebody wanted a flat further down here. I guess they were inserting this in further into a holder, and they wanted a flat for a set screw to sit on, so they ground it there. Other than that, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. That's a pretty good deal, I think, for 24 bucks. All right. So I got quite a few other things we're going to get to that are all going to come from this one estate where I went and bought a whole lot from. And I think what we'll do is, you know what, maybe we'll even just do that as a separate series altogether, and we'll just close this one out here. All right, so I hope you guys kind of enjoyed seeing that that unusual indicator and the old classic voltmeter there. Take care.